Hi there, power hungry campers. Today we're going to be reviewing the Brightway Group line of AGM batteries. There are many options available for things like your camper, RV, or fifth wheel, and even your ATV or golf cart. And these batteries are offered in many of your common sizes. Like your Group 24, you can see we've got plenty of the more common sizes you would see in a lot of your motorhomes and trailers, but we've also got some less common sizes available as well with some extreme capacities. This one here is a little bit less common, but it is an 8D size, so you can find battery boxes available for all the various size batteries here at eTrailer, so you can make sure that you can get these installed onto your trailer. These upgraded batteries from Brightway Group are going to provide you with an AGM solution that's going to replace your existing batteries. AGM stands for Absorbent Glass Mat, and what that is it's a small fiber that's inside of here, and it will absorb any of the battery acid, so that makes it completely spill proof. That fine fiberglass mat, that's its main purpose, is to make it spill proof, which makes it so these batteries can be shipped without hazardous material restrictions. And what that means for you is you're going to save money, because other batteries that have those restrictions, they cost more to ship, whereas these ones without those restrictions, the only cost really is the weight and size of the item. AGM batteries over the regular flooded lead acid will be able to go lower, recharge, and still maintain more cycles than what a flooded battery here is. Typically with these flooded ones, if you drain them down beyond 50% state of charge, you can really diminish the life of the battery. Whereas with your AGMs, you can go down to about 80% before you really start to deteriorate the integrity of the battery. All that makes the Brightway Group batteries a perfect use in your trailer or camper. And Brightway also has batteries available that are in a smaller form factor for your ATVs and smaller recreational vehicles, maybe like a jet ski or a motorcycle. Those are all great applications. Particularly with those motorcycles too, these smaller AGMs are great for those, because your regular batteries can leak potentially, and if you were to lay your bike down or something, even if you don't get hurt too bad, it could open up that battery, and now you've got battery acid everywhere. It could potentially get on you, and it could irritate you, or if it doesn't get on you, it could be a hazard for the environment and things around. So keeping everything sealed inside the battery for any type of accidents. Sometimes those batteries can be in an exposed area where maybe road debris or something could fly up and potentially nick it. These are constructed of a very strong, durable case as well to help keep these batteries working in proper condition. And here we've got a couple of smaller ATV-style batteries here. This is just some other sizes with different capacities, so you can ensure that you've got one here that's going to fit your particular vehicle. The Brightway Group 8-volt batteries are perfect for electric golf cart owners. Here we've got a modern golf cart here. This is a newer model, and you can see it's got 8-volt batteries inside of it. So this AGM battery from Brightway here would be a perfect upgrade over the batteries that are currently installed in here. You can see these are just regular lead acid batteries. So switching to an AGM battery, you're going to get all the benefits that we discussed that AGMs have. I just wanted to cover a couple of extra things that I think really make an AGM a worthy investment, because AGMs are typically a little more expensive than your regular lead acid batteries. AGM batteries, you don't have to charge nearly as often in long time storage, often being able to go 9 to 12 months before having to charge them up if they've been in storage. With your regular lead acid batteries, you're looking at 3 to 6 months having to top those up. And if you don't top them up, what happens is the battery does start to have premature wear that's going to reduce its overall life. So it's nice to have that extra time involved. If you don't have enough time to charge them up, you forget, or other things like that, you get busy, having that extra time to be able to charge them can really extend out the life of that battery. Because if you're only using it once a season, you've got enough time there to wait until that next season to charge it up to when you're ready to use it, instead of having to charge it midway through with like the lead acid. The other thing that's great about them, especially for the guys with snowmobiles, is that in cold weather performance, for an AGM is going to be significantly higher than what it is for a regular lead acid. They're going to perform better at colder temperatures, they're going to have better capacity at colder temperatures, and they're just going to be more reliable at those colder temperatures, because that's often when your regular lead acid fail, is when they're discharged, you use them out in the cold, they really struggle at that low temperatures. Having something like this is going to help ensure that you don't get stuck out in the woods or wherever else you may be. When replacing or upgrading your old lead acid batteries, I would suggest checking our site for matching AGM batteries from Brightway Group. Now that we've had a look at the batteries, Let's bring in some of our product team for further discussion. So here we've got Brightway's line of AGM batteries here. The ones on the left with the gray casing are their newer EV line, which offer a little bit higher capacity and a little bit smaller of a container. And then we've got their older AGM line here, which still offer great performance. And on the end, we've got their smaller kind of sport and ATV, little snowmobile type batteries here as well for your toys. So all of these are going to be an AGM battery. The newer ones here do have some slightly newer technology inside where they have a paste that helps to keep the electrolyte separated a little bit better than just the AGM by itself.
I was just going to say, you said that the EVA ones are slightly different, so they're all spill proof. What makes them better or different, or what is that improvement in there?
So with these ones, they have a paste inside. They're all VRLA batteries, which means they're internally ventilated, sealed lead acid batteries. So all of them are going to be like that. But in addition to that, they have the AGM material, which is that fiberglass mat that absorbs it. But these EVs additionally have a paste that kind of coats the plates on the inside to help further keep that electrolyte in its proper path as it travels through the plates. It's just a little bit further protection, and what it allows you to do is to be able to actually put the plates a little bit closer together, because the closer they are together, the higher risk you have for potential shorts and stuff in there. But as technology gets better, we're able to make our stuff smaller and better with higher performance in a smaller package, and that extra paste in the EV series here is what helps them achieve an even bigger bang for your buck in a slightly smaller package. And they're all going to have very robust, durable, sealed cases to ensure that they're going to be DOT compliant for shipping, and that they're going to be able to handle rough road trips. You've got your RVs here, depending on your suspension system. If you've got just a stock system, you might have a pretty rough ride, and there's a lot of vibrations that these go through in your trailer, so it's important they got a heavy-duty case to ensure they stay sealed.
So I would think that'd be especially important when we're talking about actually connecting them in line. Do you want to talk a little bit about like 6 volt or connecting 6 volt in line versus connecting a 12 volt, or what's the best way to use these batteries?
Yeah, so regardless, a lot of it depends first on application. Most of our customers, we're going to be using it on your trailers and your motorhomes, things like that. And for the most part, they're going to be 12 volt systems. So you're going to need 12 volts to power the loads that are inside. All the accessories that are wired up, most of those are going to run on 12 volts. So we need to have 12 volts to properly power those accessories. So a 12 volt battery is a great option because you can just drop it in there, hook up your wires, and it's ready to go. With a 12 volt, if you just have a single 12 volt, you'll have the capacity that is labeled on the battery. So if we were going with this one here, it's 12 volts, and we get 140 amp hours. But you do have another option. If we look at the physical size here of this one versus, we're going to go down to the 6 volts, because the 8 volt here is pretty exclusive for like a golf cart application. So if we look at the physical size comparison, this is a 12 volt, which means it has 6 cells inside, and this is a 6 volt, which means it only has 3 cells inside. But if we look at our capacity here, it's a 220 amp hour capacity. Now that's at 6 volts. Now with this being a 6 volt battery, it's not going to be able to power the accessories inside of our motorhome or our trailer just by itself. We're going to need an additional 6 volt battery, which we'll wire in series, which to do that, you would simply just hook the positive of one battery to the negative of another, and then that would add our voltage together, giving us 12 volts, but in a series circuit, your amperage, your amp hour capacity is going to remain the same. And when you're ever hooking batteries in series, it's important you use the same batteries. You want to make sure you got the same amp hour rating on all those batteries. Because if you're using one that's less, if this is a 220 and the one over here is a 200, your capacity is actually going to be less than 220. It's going to equalize somewhere towards the middle there. Where with two 220s, you've got two 220s in series, you'll have 12 volts now at 220. So if we look at the physical size, if we went with 2 6 volts, it would be larger. But when we compare our capacity of 220 amp hours to 140, this one here that's pretty close to 50% additional capacity on a double 6 volt setup versus a single 12 volt. But you have to look at size. So you see the size here. What can you fit inside of your motorhome? That's one of the most important things when making a determination if I want 6 volts or do I want 12 volts. 12 volts do offer a slightly lower upfront cost because you're getting everything in one battery, whereas 6 volts do require you You basically have to purchase pairs of 6 volts to get that 12 volts that you're going to need. So there is a little more additional upfront cost, but oftentimes you're going to find that you're going to be able to find batteries of a more reasonable size that you're going to be able to fit inside your trailer or motorhome in 6-volt batteries, so you can get the most capacity as possible inside your compartment. But there are some stuff that's pretty neat that they're coming out with. If we pan down here to the bottom, this guy down here is a 12-volt battery. It has 6 cells in it to give us that 12 volts, but it has a capacity of 330 amp hours. So it really comes down to the size capacity you have. This battery here, if you have a compartment that can fit it, this is great. This is actually a pretty small space that fits such a high capacity at 12 volts. We're going to bring the 6-volt back down here so you can compare those. Mm-hmm. So if we look at this 6-volt, it's almost half as long as our 12 volts. So if we were to put 2 6-volts, we would have similar length, but if these were wired in series, you'd only have 220 capacity on the double 6-volt, where you got 330 on this big guy here. But we'll turn them sideways, and we'll show you where you might have some potential issues. If we look at them sideways, you can see this considerably skinnier this direction than this direction. This is kind of an awkward size battery here, and there's a good chance your compartment's not going to be able to support it. So that's where it really just comes down a lot to dimensions, and determining which dimensions of batteries are going to give you the proper voltage you need, which for most trailers is going to be 12 volts, and what's going to give me the best capacity. And also you can calculate on the cost of all this, determine the best bang for your buck.
So if I'm going to be taking my camper off grid a lot, so I'm not going to be able to plug in and I really need all that battery power, and maybe I have a solar setup to keep it charged, to keep it going, should I really consider making more room if I need to make more room to actually get 2 6-volts wired in series, or that huge 12-volt battery? I mean, would that...
To me, with the motorhomes, it's kind of what it comes down to. How much capacity can I fit in the smallest compartment so I can have as much energy available to me, so I can do everything I want to do, but still have as much space in my RV to access everything that I wanted to access. Yeah. So a lot of it really does come down to a little bit of measurement and a little bit of math to determine which is going to be the best for you.
So on the RV that you have in front of you right now, what can we fit in there?
Well, let's go take a look up here on this one. So currently in this one, it's just got 2 12-volt small. They are 18-amp batteries, but they're only about 100 amp hour capacity. And we went ahead and upgraded from the battery boxes that originally had, because we're going to be going from these guys here to 2 of those monsters that we saw on the floor. So he's going to have 12 volts wired in parallel. They were 330 a piece, so he's going to have 660 amp hours of capacity sitting in the front of this thing. So he'll be able to run his accessories for quite some time, and it's a great setup for a huge solar panel on top. You want to go off grid, you've got a ton of juice here to really enjoy your time out in the woods. These are the smaller ATV ones. They do come in various sizes, so you can find the right one for your particular ATV or snowmobile or whatever you're putting them in. We did do a replacement on a Polaris, and this battery here, when we took out the old one that was the same physical size, the old one was a 12-volt, 12 amp hour capacity. This one here with the same physical size is a 12-volt, 14 amp hour capacity, which means we're going to have a little bit more capacity in here. And increased capacity, it does do a couple of other things for you. The higher your capacity is on your battery, that means it has more initial burst output that it can put out. If something's drawing a real high, heavy demand of a load, something like this isn't going to be able to put out as many amps at that request as something like this with a much higher capacity. So if you need burst power, like maybe, for just as an example, but if you had potentially some kind of an inverter that could turn on an AC compressor or something, kick it over. If you had high enough capacity on your battery to put that amperage over to kick it over, you potentially could, whereas a smaller capacity is not going to have that. Also, a higher capacity does increase the charge rate at which you could charge the battery. But with a higher capacity, it takes longer to charge a higher capacity. So it sort of charges faster. You charge more capacity at a time. It takes longer because there's more capacity to be had in here. So that is kind of another kind of benefit. You are putting a little bit more juice in there faster than with your flooded lead acid and stuff. And the higher capacity could be more over your lower capacities.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you, Dave, you kind of brought up lithium there for a second. They are a lot lighter, but I was going to wonder if you are kind of boondocking or maybe just living full time. Do you think a lithium battery is a better thing to go with because it's going to have that life of it's probably going to last a lot longer
Oh yeah.
compared to the AGM?
I mean, lithium is definitely the best way to go. You're going to have the highest potential with it. With lithiums, as you're like with these batteries, as your voltage drains and you lose your charge, the voltage drops off. It seems like a little bit faster, so your loads kind of you'll hear like a little bit of a slowdown. Versus lithium, you seem to stay at that peak like performance throughout the entire loss of its capacity. That voltage stays higher. They have higher capacities. They work better at different extreme low and high temperatures. So they really are kind of just an all-around better option. The only issues with lithiums is that they have to have particular charging. Most of them have an internal battery management system that takes care of it for you, so you can pretty much use it like a normal battery in a lot of cases. But you got to be aware whether or not they have that. And then the other issue is the cost. They are typically usually a lot more expensive than an AGM or a flooded lead acid.
Right. Yeah, and you'd want to make sure your converter chart, all that stuff's going to be compatible with it in the end too, I guess.
Thanks for talking to us.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks. Thank you.
Well, thanks for spending some time with us and checking out the Brightway Group AGM batteries.